Honey, I love you, but why Valentine's Day is the perfect time to talk about our joint finances. Honey, I love you, but we really need to talk about our finances and see if we're on the same page. So I know this is a very awkward question and it's a very awkward conversation to have with our partners. I know that when we do meet someone, we go, I don't really want to talk about my money, or you might say, I'm not going to tell her how much I earn, So the really good thing is if you're really keen on each other and you know that it's going to go somewhere, the best thing to do is to start that conversation about your joint finances early in the piece, or talk about money. You don't need to elaborate everything about your money, but you can talk about some of the goals that you might have, financial goals particularly, and where you're heading, to see if there is a match and see if you are on the same page, because the lust and that honeymoon period is going to fade pretty quickly. So this is a really good way to actually increase a relationship, to be able to have some fun things together, particularly if you're planning holidays, buying a house, how many kids do we want, all this sort of thing. It's really important to start talking about that earlier. And also, Maths is on at the moment, so what a perfect time it is to talk about these things. There's lots of other things we should talk about in our relationships as well. But so why money matters in talking about that in our relationship? Some of us might have different goals, and sometimes a year or two into it, you might go, you never told me about that, or I never knew about those spending habits. So it's a really good idea to have these awkward conversations early in the piece. Now stay with me, because we're going to talk a little bit about prenups at the end, and whether we should do them or whether we shouldn't. I know they're very awkward questions, aren't they? All right, so I have written a blog post, and I am going to go off that to make sure I'm covering everything for you. So there is discussions why it helps set shared goals. And that the good part about it is you might be saving up for a holiday and he might be out doing other things and not go, oh my God, we're not even on the same page here. So sometimes it's even best to set up a separate account. You can both put money in, particularly if you're dating. You say, hey, let's have some fun together. And also you can start looking at put $50 a week each in towards a great holiday at the end, instead of saying, I paid for all that. Well, he didn't do anything. So it saves a lot of arguments down the track. So there's 5 key conversations that we can have about joint finances. One is setting up financial goals together. So like we just talked about, retirement, a holiday or a car, a deposit for a house or whatever. And it's good to do these things, but we're both today are working. We're both full-time working. We're both working hard. So it's a good idea. Well, who's going to be the breadwinner? Who's going to do this and who's going to do that? It's a really good idea. Writing everything down on paper is a great idea too. And that's why having a budget together is a fantastic idea as well. Combining and keeping finances separate. Do we combine or do we keep them separate? This is a conversation that really needs to happen. Budgeting as a couple. Do we budget together? Do we budget separate? Do we budget here and budget there, because he's got different habits and I've got different habits? And then I like to still buy my things and I still like to go shopping because I earn money and I work very hard. Or he might be the same. And you might want to have this joint money in the middle that you're saving with or budgeting with for certain things. The other thing might be, how do you handle debt together? Particularly if you start living together, you're married, you've got kids, and then you start buying cars, you've got mortgages and things like that. How do you handle the debt? One of them might be really good at wanting to pay it off quickly. Mine probably just wants to pay the repayments and that's it. So they're really good things to talk about. And also with investing, you might want to look at, do we pay extra or do we open up an investment account, put our money there? At the end of the year, we can put that onto account. So many things to talk about. Anyway, so planning for the future, so those are the 5 things, setting up your financial goals, combining and keeping your finances separate, budgeting as a goal, handling your debt together, and planning for the future. It's all written in the blog post. There's a little bit more detail in there. You're welcome. Go have a read. It's absolutely free. Okay, so tips about having that conversation. This is a really good one. So choose the right time. You know, the best thing to do is plan a date. Go out for dinner, have a long lunch or whatever. Go out for coffee without the kids, without friends. But make sure you're in the right frame of mind for this. Plan it ahead. You know, take pen and paper, write down some goals and start having that awkward conversation, because if you can't have an awkward conversation now, you're never going to be able to have one in the relationship, and it's going to cause a lot of friction in the relationship. So it's probably worthwhile to do that right now. Be open and honest. Don't be dishonest with yourself. Be completely upfront and honest about your feelings, about how you see things, and particularly about your money. Your money is so important to you. It's next to oxygen. You know, like as we work, we pay our bills, with all the rest of it. There are dreams, there are goals. Money is incredibly important. So listen to each other's perspectives. You know, they might say something, don't get into an argument, just stop and pause and think about, well, what did they say? Do we need to think about these things? You're not going to come up with a solution straight away, but they're things to start to talk about. They're things to start to think, well, how are we going to do this? Might take a few months. So, and celebrate the small wins together. You know, reward each other. Have rewards, you know. You might have a partner who loves buying gifts, and you might say, look, I love the gifts, but how about we look at, you know, our budgeting and our joint finances and all the rest of it. If you want to buy them a gift, think about buying them on special occasions or at certain rewards or at certain celebration times, because it also stops a bit of friction as well. So, strong relationship needs financial harmony. And so if you can take some of those tips and hints into them, it's like saying, honey, I do love you. Oh, let's just talk about our finances. And like I promised our bonus at the end, I want to talk about prenups. Whether we do a prenuptial or not. Prenuptials can cause a lot of friction in any relationship. I believe if you take the steps above and you know where each other stands and you know that where you are and you're being very open, you're being very honest, what is wrong with writing out some vows? We write vows out to get married. We write vows out to be in a committed relationship or to go exclusive with someone. What is wrong with writing vows about our finances? If we can do that, you can also still do a legal document with that. But prenups are some things to think and take into account, and also to think about other people's perspectives on that too. Are we on the same page? What do we want? This one might want a prenup. I'm getting a prenup because they are my house and I brought all this into the relationship. And, you know, we both are equal partners. Just because one might have all the money, the other one might have a lot of creativity, a lot of skills, a lot of other things you bring to the table. The two of you bring things to the table. This is why it's called a relationship. It's a partnership. You know, if you love each other, it can be worked out. So prenups are definitely something to think about. There might be something to go and get legal advice on as well. And there might be something to not talk about in the beginning. I mean, if you're just getting to know someone, what is wrong with going through those steps first? And then think about, is a prenup worthwhile or not? Anyway, I hope all that's been helpful. Have a look at the blog post. There's some heaps of information in there that goes into more detail about what I've talked about. And think about, it's a good idea, you know. I know lots of people who don't do this and they get married and they've never budgeted together. Me, I've done it. I've done it. But a little while into our marriage, we did do it. And it certainly made a big difference. Okay, no worries. See you later. Carrie Ann Simpson, local mortgage broker in Caloundra, but I can help anyone anywhere in Australia. Anyway, if you have any questions, you want to reach out and, you know, you want some information on who I should talk to about a prenup or whatever, what are the best budgeting tools? I do have plenty of other blog posts and videos on things like that are different budgeting apps or whatever, if you want to start there with your partner. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day. And you know what? Honey, I do love you.